Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And today we're bringing you that second part of the Lacy Phillips Free and Native episode. You might have noticed towards the end of the last episode, Lacy kind of started interviewing us. And so when it turned to her interviewing Sophie, first of all, we felt like we had kept you around for more than an hour and a half, and that was way longer than a typical episode of ours. Secondly, just the topic completely changed, and so I thought that would be a good point for us to kind of cut and move. You could get out of your car, go to work, do everything else you tell us you do after you listen to these, but also, kind of keep things pseudo-focused. So we're going to talk about the second part today, and that has a lot to do with Sophie's story, shadow and expectations and growing up and developing. The interesting thing is that we recorded that Going Deep episode in the middle. So when we did the Lacy episode, we had never talked about our entire story before.
Right.
So now you all know, and that'll put a lot of things in context in terms of the conversation we had with Lacy.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to that Going Deep episode, we suggest you go back to it. So maybe you heard Lacy's episode last week, maybe you didn't. That's another thing you should go listen to. So if you're just tuning in now for the first time, we highly suggest that you go back and listen to Lacy's episode, her first part in this 2-part series, and then also go to the Going Deep episode before or after that.
Yeah, because this one's going to jump right into parts of Sophie's story, and yeah, I think there'll be a real gap for you if you hadn't seen that one. But for those of you who have heard, not seen, because you don't really watch any of our episodes, we talked a lot about not just the cheating that I had done in the past, but some of the things that Sophie experienced later on in our relationship that we mentioned in this episode. But really, Sophie, for you, that was some deep reckoning around shadow and around elements of yourself that I feel like you weren't allowed to access for a while.
Oh, yeah. I definitely felt for years like I could only connect to the light parts of who I was and, the pleasant parts and the parts that are pretty and the parts that are just put together and easier and light and optimistic. Like those are the parts that everyone celebrated about me and I celebrate about myself, and it helped me get through a lot of painful moments in my life to just focus on the light. And that's great, but there are two sides to everything. And for a long time, I denied those shadows, and they would come out at crazy weird times.
Oh, like what?
I mean, like years after being in an abusive relationship, fast forward to having sex with you and I'm crying and I don't even know that I'm crying. Like, okay. If you don't deal with both sides of who you are and keep it balanced, then it's going to rear its ugly head.
Well, and I think I can totally understand. I think most people aren't even necessarily that good or able to ignore the negative, to ignore the shadow. It's hard. So for a lot of us, it comes out whether you want it to or not. And what I'm hearing you saying is that for you, it almost kind of came naturally to primarily show off the positive, happy side?
Yeah, it comes more naturally to me for sure, to just be happy. But it was also programming, like from an early age, I was the one that was positive. I was the one that
So it was always true.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't think there was necessarily a lot of darkness in my perception for a while, but then there was a lot. Then there was like a saturation of heaviness and darkness and shadows with my ex throughout high school. Then my best friend died, like just like a lot of darkness. My stepmom got stage 4 breast cancer. Even younger, my parents divorced, like moved around year to year, like a lot of traumatic things that I just kind of pushed aside and put on a happy face because I felt like I had to.
Do you feel like you put on a happy face to the outside world and inside, or you?
Oh, inside too, for sure.
Because
Yeah.
you actually used to tell me
I
that.
convinced myself.
Well, you used to tell me that you would actually suppress bad memories so much that you would have a hard time remembering that they even happened.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of things from my childhood. My brother will talk to me about something. I'm like, remember that? I'm like, no, I don't. I choose not to remember a lot of things from my childhood. And, you know, for better or worse.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
I definitely think now I know how much medicine is in that shadow. And I learned that kind of the hard way, which we'll talk about more we talked about in the Going Deep episode, but also we talk about it in this episode.
Well, in the Going Deep, we talk about the experience.
Yeah.
We didn't dive super deep because it was so long already. We didn't dive super deep into the underlying components and what we kind of came out from.
No, I'm saying the experience, which I shared in the Going Deep episode and we share here, happened. And shortly after that, I realized how much medicine there was in that darkness.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I came from almost literally the opposite side.
Yeah,
where
you're living a dark life.
Yeah, or from junior high and high school was kind of listened to dark music and was more brooding. And, you know, when I would write, whether it was songs or music or prose, it was always focused on the darkness. I mean, so much so that when I would meet people, I mean, my ex, at least like when I met people who primarily seemed happy, I thought they must be faking it all the time. I almost couldn't connect to the light part at all, to the point where I believed that people were lying if they presented it.
And mine was the opposite. Like I thought that people that were constantly in the darkness were just putting on a show, trying to be melodramatic, like just like annoyed by it. Like they just have to be wearing black and have to like be in this goth, you know, it's like, oh, I only listen to this kind of music and I'm going to be dark and negative and, you know, pessimistic about everything. And
I almost want, whoever's listening right now, I want you to DM us or email us and tell us which one were you growing up. Because now as we're talking, I'm developing another worldview real quick, but it's like, I'm wondering if people are just split where they kind of start on one side or another, you know, and if there are people out there who feel like they were middle of the road the whole time. I really want to know this. So send us DMs, send us emails. I'd love to hear this. Yeah,
I doubt people were balanced. Like kudos to you if you could in middle school and high school be balanced in their darkness and your lightness.
Yeah. That's really interesting. But it's so interesting that you came from the other side. You got a passage you want to read for us?
Yeah, I'm just going to read a couple sentences from my girlfriend Aarona's moon deck.
Shout out to Aarona. We'll have links.
What's up, Aarona? So this is on the shadow card, and this is the first paragraph. Light and shadow each play a vital role in our growth. The dark and deep is as valuable as the light and easy. When we accept that they coexist, we can embrace our shadow without letting it define us. I love that.
Yeah. And we talk a lot in this episode about you can't run from it. You can't run from either.
No, neither.
So if you spend your whole life trying to avoid the other side, you're going to end up doing things you're really unhappy about, things that you're going to regret, things that create this life for you that you don't actually want, literally because you're not acknowledging this other side to you.
They both contribute to your growth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the thing is that it depends. Like if you surround yourself with other people who primarily focus on the dark, it's not popular or accepted to be focusing on the positive. And if you're surrounding yourself by people who primarily focus on the positive, then they make it not okay to talk about the shadow because, you know, how dare you bring that darkness into our world?
Totally.
So finding either balance within yourself or finding balance in your surroundings and environment, in your social milieu, the people you're with, can really help in making it okay to focus on it, because it is kind of socially acceptable to primarily focus on the positive. Like put on a smiley face and pretend everything's always great.
Yeah, and just move on. Just keep going.
So I totally get why.
And it's so important to really feel your feelings and really feel the range of your emotions. Like I feel like a lot of my issues with you and I and the cheating, like some of the parts that manifested later on were from a deep place of pain, but like even more so, I never let myself feel the anger, like I felt sadness with you and I felt betrayal, but I never let myself be angry. And I think that that's what manifested later, 7 years later.
Yeah, it's
like built up anger that I just never dealt with. Like you always have to deal with the whole range of emotions.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, sometimes, again, you feel like it's not okay. Like I need to get past it, right? I need to get to the other side. And because I think we have this need, or at least a desire, to get along with people or be accepted or be looked at as nice and easygoing and easy to get along with, sometimes we'll put to the side the conflicts and the things that are a little less uncomfortable about us so that we can get along with more people. I mean, I know I'm dealing with that right now. I'm not great at dealing with conflict, never really have been. And so when it comes up, it makes me really uncomfortable, and unless I get better at dealing with it, I'm going to keep running away from situations that show the full me, because I'm going to try to acquiesce. I'm going to try to go along with the flow and whatever everybody else needs and wants. I mean, that came up in the last few days, even with the addiction stuff that I feel really strongly about. But every once in a while, it's like there's a big enough swell of people who look down at what I do or criticize it, call me names,
It's always going to be true. And whatever you do, especially when you take an extreme stance like you do.
Yeah. But that's scary to me sometimes, because I want to be liked. I want everybody to go, that a D, he's so great.
Totally.
And so when I don't get that feedback, or I get the opposite, there's a part of me, like a little kid, that gets a little scared.
Yeah, it's funny. I've actually kind of, I still have that instinct of like retreating and feeling self-conscious, especially when I'm not like in a super strong place. But for the most part, I actually really like ruffling feathers now. Like it's kind of fun. And like with all the pregnancy stuff, like I like being really outspoken, even though it's like the alcohol post that I did on pregnancy. I'm not sitting around drinking all the time. Like I have a few sips like in a month. Like it's not like but just going down that path and taking a stance and being like, moms, it's cool. Like, do you listen to your instincts? If you want to drink a couple glasses or a couple sips of wine, not a couple glasses. If you want to drink a couple sips, like it's okay. And thousands of women were like, thank you. Thank you for saying this. Thank you for taking a stance. Thank you for telling us to follow our intuition, because you know best, moms. And there were like, 5 to 7 moms that came forward and bitched me out and told me I was horrible and told me I am abusing my platform and not, all of these things. I'm a danger, and my pregnancy is a danger. And it was great to sit and have an educated conversation, me using my facts, things that I've gathered over time and research, and stand by my stance, and it felt good.
And you did you talked to my sister ahead of time as an OBGYN. You did reading. It's not like you just said it outright and just went completely on a whim.
No,
you
researched.
Made certain that what you were saying was at least within bounds of what would be acceptable.
Exactly. I even asked my OB. I asked my OBGYN, your sister's a high risk OBGYN. We looked at research and we connected about it. And we don't have to get into the details now.
Sure.
But the point is that it felt good to take a stance, even though it was extreme and not well liked and well accepted, just to do it.
Yeah. And I know that, again, it's that funny thing, right? It's when you take a stance, honestly, I think even if you don't try to take an extreme stance.
Sure.
But if you pick a side in anything.
Exactly.
You will ruffle feathers.
Absolutely.
But the unfortunate reality is that if you don't, nobody will pay attention.
You stand for nothing.
And I'm not exactly I'm not doing it so that people recognize me. I'm doing it because there are too many people dying of addiction and I see this huge gap and I'm trying to fill it.
Exactly.
So it even more as we're having this conversation pisses me off that I care enough about what 4 random people on Facebook
Exactly.
leave in comments, and
that's the thing.
The names they call me and all of those sorts of things that go along with that. But I think there's a part of me, because of how far into shadow I've gone before, there is always this little part in the back of my head, and I wonder how many people listening can relate to this, that thinks to itself, are these people right? Am I picking the wrong side again and screwing up? And
I think that's the point, is to question.
I have to check myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so important to question everything at all times, even when you feel like you've been on one road and one path and one journey for a long time and you're right. It's still good to ask yourself, am I doing this for the right reasons? Do I really still feel this way? What is my why?
Yeah.
And if anything, you'll come out even stronger. Like now I feel even more confident being at a wedding or hanging out with friends and having a few sips of wine and being like, yeah, I own this. Right. This is my choice. This is my body.
Yeah. And you because you did the work and you checked up on it.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Speaking of conflict, I think that leads right into our relationship for the week. And we gave you such a long episode last week. We're going to keep this one a little bit shorter. But conflict is a big part of a relationship. And if you're trying to create a relationship that is devoid of conflict, then A, good luck. B, it's never going to happen. C, go back to A.
Highly unrealistic.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So what we need to figure out in relationship, instead of how to avoid conflict, is actually the opposite, and that is how to have healthy conflict. And we can do that in a later episode. I have a whole worksheet actually that I do with my clients and my course members about how to have more constructive conflict. I don't even want to get there yet, but we talk so much in this episode about the programming you came to this moment with. We all have stories. We all have pasts. And I want to start you there. So whether you're in a relationship with somebody, or you're trying to get in a relationship with somebody, or you're hoping to be in a relationship one day with somebody, or you just ended one, you've been in conflict in the past, and some of that conflict felt unhealthy or felt like it wasn't constructive and as if it was hurting the relationship. And so one of the things I think we don't do enough of is have conversations about what was the modeling we had for conflict early on. How many of you listening right now know how the household your partner comes from dealt with conflict? What was said? Who talked about it? Was it the mom or the dad? Was it brought up right away? Did nobody talk about it at all? When people talked about conflict, was the attempt to resolve it and come to a resolution that made everybody feel okay? Or was just somebody put down the gauntlet and said, this is how it is, I don't care how you all feel? Or was it kind of like in my family where we don't really have conflict? It just
don't talk about things.
Discomfort just kind of gets brushed to the side. My sister and I feel like move the needle a tiny bit on it, but we for sure bring the entire generation from before along with us. And we would rather not talk about it and, just keep going. So I think that's really, really important to really understand your partner. If you want to understand why your partner fights the way that they fight, find out what modeling they had before.
Absolutely.
And it will really, really help you. Your family didn't deal with conflict the way mine dealt with it at all.
No, mine talks about things at length and talks about their feelings at length and almost like beats it till it's overly dead. But I guess I would still prefer that over not talking about feelings at all. Because at least I had the language to navigate my way through conflict.
Was that true with your family of origin as well as with Phyllis and the new kind of orientation? Because you've had 2 moms.
Yeah, I don't really remember how my mom handled conflict, actually.
Okay.
So long ago. I mean...
because that was early, but also you were around for long enough for that to really cause an impact.
Yeah. I feel like at times she handled it well and gracefully, and then other times her borderline would kick in and it would just be like night and day or black and white and kind of crazy. I mean, there was a lot of inconsistency with my mom. She was like really, really crazy towards the end. So yeah, I mean, I moved out when I was 17. I kind of avoided all conversation, conflict, everything with her from like 14 or 15 on.
But before that,
I lost so much respect for her.
But before that, sometimes she would blow up and sometimes it was totally fine. But you still talked about things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was actually really good about talking through feelings and conflict and emotions when I was younger. But as I think her borderline, or maybe I don't really know what it was that caused all of it, too much smoking pot, something triggered something, and she no longer could handle very much
discomfort.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, really interesting. In my family, I feel like you were either right or wrong.
Yeah.
And if you were wrong, you essentially were told what the right thing was to do, and you just did that.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Or just shut your mouth.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't a lot of shut your mouth.
Not like in a
because
negative.
there wasn't a lot of conflict.
They didn't say like shut your mouth. You just did. I'm saying like, if you were wrong, then you just accepted you were wrong and you would turn the corner and move on.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I think about the way we have conflict, and it's pretty much maintained similarly. I mean, I remember early in our relationship, you definitely would push the topic, and we would resolve the conflict. And maybe it was 3-hour conversation or a 5-hour conversation, but at least back then you wanted to go to sleep having resolved the topic, and sometimes that meant many, many hours of talking.
Yeah, and I think we were getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And we were getting to know each other's love languages. We were getting to know each other's conflict.
I got to say, your family is hilarious to me at this point because it's so different than the family I grew up in, where you guys will have what I consider the most minute little transgression.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody forgot to text somebody about a thing or something that in my family wouldn't even be mentioned ever in life.
This is just Phyllis, by the way. My dad does not give two shits. Sure. My dad does not give a fuck.
But you guys go deep.
Yeah, Phyllis.
It gets heated.
Yeah.
And then you inevitably resolve it and love each other afterwards. It's
Absolutely.
It's pretty crazy to watch.
Yeah.
Because I don't know a lot of other people that do that. And then I wonder why, because you were saying before, you are comfortable with conflict. Because you get into it around text. So if you can get into it around what you said in a text, why not get into it when shit really matters?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm very comfortable with conflict. I'm very comfortable and confident surrounding confronting someone about something. Like, I don't have a lot of fear. Like, I get definite anxiety and like butterflies right before I have to confront someone. But I would much rather confront someone with how I feel and something that's maybe upsetting me or hurt me or whatever it is, just my true feelings on something. I'd much rather confront it than hold it in.
Yeah. Cool. So look, for right now, we're not even worrying about whether there's the right or wrong approach about it. But talk to your partner and sit down and figure it out yourself, right? If you want to understand where you want to go in terms of conflict resolution, you've got to start out by understanding where you're starting from. So that's our tip for this week. Have that conversation with your partner. Figure it out for yourself. What was modeled for you in terms of conflict resolution where you were growing up? And you're going to end up realizing a lot of things about why it is that you currently engage in conflict the way that you do. So get ready for Lacy again. Obviously, this one's going to jump right into the middle of a conversation because we left you last time. So if you want to just pick up, you can go to the end of the last episode, play the last couple of minutes so you know where this is about to start, and get ready for some more Free and Native.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.
This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fix all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com.
I do have one thing I wanted to ask you, Sophie.
Yes.
Because I got to watch, like, for anybody listening and who tunes into Sophie as well, but I really got to watch, like, your manifestation energy in action. And there was one point where I even called it, where I was like, you stepped into your masculine, which is that worth money energy. But you're somebody who's so versed on your feminine. Like, when I took inventory of all of the women in my life, I think right now you're actually so versed in your balance. But before, when I first met you, you were very deep in your feminine. And so I'm so curious because my listeners are and I'm on a personal journey of like tapping deeper into my feminine right now, where I want you to, if you can, speak on that. Like, when I first met you, you were like pink and rainbows and like full woman and emotion. And then I watched you have like a pivotal turn into your masculine as well, which I feel recalibrated and balanced those.
Yeah, I think for me, I've gone through so many different waves and I've dabbled in both. I think my as a Taurus, moon and sun, I'm very, very feminine and very earth mama.
Pleasure and
just sensuality, just very comfortable with nature and being and beautiful things. But at the same time, I've had to do everything myself. So since I was little, I had 3 jobs when I was 14, and that didn't stop. That hasn't stopped. And so maybe when we met, I was in that place of femininity. I don't even remember when that was because I flip-flop so much. And again, always trying to find that balance and that grace between the two, because I think it's so important.
And it's so hard in today's society.
It's so hard. I think being a mother helps. I think it really helps me remember, like, I don't need to go. And that masculine, like, our society is so programmed to just like keep going and the never ending workday and all of that. And as an entrepreneur, but I think finding the balance in all of the things was having the children.
Amazing.
It helped me balance my food issues. It helped me balance like everything. Like it made my body better. It made my heart better. It just reset everything. It's beautiful. Like it recalibrated. And I'm excited for this next version. I thought that's where you were going because you watched the manifestation of this girl.
Yeah, oh, totally. And I was like one of
full on part of it.
I just knew it too. Yeah. I was like, I just knew it.
And I manifested, like, for anyone that hasn't watched this journey, like, I manifested a girl. We worked hard to manifest this girl. I worked hard to manifest this girl. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I talk about it a little bit.
Amazing.
The first pregnancy video. But yeah, I think for me, I'm always trying to find the balance, and I'm always trying to like do better in those areas of finding that grace of masculine, feminine. I know when I'm like aching for it, when I get too masculine, then I go and have to do something more extreme. Like,
can you speak to, and this is me selfishly asking, and I know my people will just totally thrive from this, but can you speak to some of the practices you do for either to tap into both deeper?
Yeah, I think that the masculine comes easier to me, so I don't really have to do practices to tap into that because I've just been in that space for so long. I wasn't really allowed to just be a little girl who got to play. Like, I played outside and all of that, but like I had to grow up really quickly. Survival very quickly. Like, my mom was poor. My mom was always like, how are we going to get groceries this week? Like, your dad's late on the child support. Like, why are we only waiting for this one check to eat? Like, where's your money going to from the job? Like, just all the dysfunction. And it was crazy. And that's what I grew up in. I protected my brother and I did everything. And that started really young. So I think the masculine is what actually comes naturally. Yeah. But if that wasn't true, like if that wasn't my childhood, that the feminine would come through more because I'm a Taurus, because I'm, earth mama, because I'm a mother now and all of that. But I think for feminine, it's much more about slowing down.
That's the biggest.
So for me, it's like turning phone off, not allowing that to come through.
Same.
Because there's always demands.
Yeah,
and
always.
it's never going to stop.
I've like started leaving it in a room.
Yeah.
I
And
check it
it's
3
so
times a day.
I feel like I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
When I say I'm going to leave this down here and go like do the laundry upstairs.
Isn't that amazing?
And then it leads to organizing this thing and then playing with the kids with the and then it's 4 hours past.
It's your sensual creativity.
And then I'm just in the moment and in my like feminine nature. And then when the kids aren't here, it's the same thing. It's just listening to music that tunes me in, like Krishna Das or chanting or something. I have certain music that just aligns me right away. Mm-hmm. And then putting my phone away while even if I'm writing or working, journaling really helps. Mm-hmm. Going on a walk, working out helps for me. It really is like my tune in. I do not like having my phone when I'm working out unless I'm just walking. But I really like, those are my things of just, I want to tune into that feminine energy, which means for me, slow down.
Yeah, I love that.
Which means absorb, and which means like be present. So
and
I feel it. I feel it with, I don't do this with the kids, but I feel it with a D when like he walks by and I'm just like,
yeah, that's when you're just.
Then I'm like, I need to work on being in touch with that. Like when and for me, my biggest practice is what I want in my life. All I have to do is do it, and it'll come to me.
Yeah.
But because I'm a Taurus, I'm very resistant to like, I'm like, no, just give me what I want.
Yeah, stubborn.
A D, like give me that thing because I'm stubborn. So like, I want you to love me more. I want you to be more affectionate. I want you to be more physical. Whatever it is.
It's the opposite.
If I would just do it, he'll do it too.
Totally.
He'll like come play once I'm playful. Mm-hmm. But if I'm like just waiting for him and twiddling my thumbs and like being pissed, it's never going to happen. So again, it's like that attraction.
That energy.
It's the energy.
Of opposite.
Yeah. So when I'm in that space of femininity, then everything around me is more in the moment and more calm and more, the masculine's always there. We live in this society,
it's
like
LA, like
it's
all
never
of it.
Going anywhere.
Totally.
So that we don't need to tune into. Like at least I don't need to as much.
I mean, I definitely know women out there who do need to tap in a little bit,
true.
But I don't think I know any entrepreneurial.
True.
Tap into that at all.
Yeah.
But I love that. Are we totally tapped on time, or can I ask
there is
you
no.
some more questions?
No.
Okay, good.
Not only not tapped on time, but I feel like we actually had like 2 different sessions. Like one when we interviewed you, and now I kind of feel like you're interviewing us.
Yeah.
Which is totally.
I thought it's me. I'm like, I need to learn everything.
Which is totally cool, but I'm literally having a sense in my head that I might split this up into 2 different episodes.
Great.
Which would be awesome.
Is that okay?
Part 1, part 2.
Yeah.
We make up our own rules.
I don't have to go just yet, so I want to ask you questions.
Totally. I love it.
Because I want to tap more into, like, especially for women out there who are manifesting children right now, myself included.
Yeah.
And I think so much of why it's not transpiring is because I'm so deeply in my masculine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think I'm energetically aligned with it, even though I feel that baby right around.
Yeah.
But so there's like that one component. I also think it's a lot of why I have endocrine issues because of the survival since day one, and then masculine, like work, constant. And so a lot of my practice lately, it actually just downloaded finally, where it was like, that is the missing piece. It was like, I got that message came through. And so much of it has been like, slowing down and checking out, delegating and having a team that really helps and they're magical. And then a lot of sensual
so much
stuff
of that
too.
So that letting go and the team stuff is huge because it comes back to the trust.
It totally does. And
someone else can do this probably is
better.
Probably
better in my
case
than me by far, which has been magical.
And trusting that so that you can then have the space to breathe, focus on the things you should be focusing on, and feel balanced and in love.
Absolutely.
With your life instead of just.
So here's something that I think maybe this is the opportunity to talk about some of this stuff that we've never really talked about before.
Oh my God, is it about the pregnancy stuff?
Well, it's about the sensuality and the connecting to the feminine part and all that kind of stuff. Like when I met Sophie, she wasn't.
I was shut down.
She was
really.
She was girly. She was very girly. Like that wasn't the issue, but the sensuality and the sexuality stuff had been shut down because she had been in an abusive relationship for about 5 years before me, and abusive specifically in the sense that the guy was really jealous, and so anytime she was revealing, anytime she talked to another man or anything like that, he would shut it down, but like aggressively and violently. So there was none of that actually. Like sex was emotional. She would cry regularly, etc. And at the time I wasn't aware enough to really know what to do about it. But so that's probably one of our bigger journeys, is this idea, this way to discover. We had Alexander Roxo on, now it's about a month ago by the time this thing comes out, or even a little bit more. But she actually kind of does this sort of work with women to try to help them, with people in general, to try to help them tap in. Ours was our own work through the struggles we have with my cheating and stuff like that really doing
Helped
some
us,
deep
helped me
work.
heal.
Yeah.
Like the cheating was a gift.
Which is like back to manifestation spirituality. Like, yes, it was for both of you guys, right?
Yeah,
it's an earthquake.
I look at it as such a gift. Like we went through another thing a couple years ago where I cheated on a D.
That's where,
and I wasn't going to mention,
but
when I came
told
to you.
Me, and when you told me, what did your career take off right after? It's
everything.
You tapped back
everything.
Into that, like that energetic worthiness.
I called a girlfriend who had been on this path with us in this sex addiction world and like the cheating in the 7 years. We went to go to this, it's called RCA. It's Recovering Couples Anonymous. So it's a support group on like Sunday nights, and we go and we make dinner together, and it's a beautiful Sunday night ritual that we've had for now 8 years.
Amazing.
And one of the women, I called her right after I cheated on a D, and it was just after New Year's, and I was like, I've been trying to get a hold of you for days. And she's like, what's going on? And I was like, this thing happened. Like on New Year's, I slept with this guy. He was like a model and a stranger, and like
total
what the
stranger.
fuck is wrong with me? And she's like, congratulations.
Me too. That's what I
literally,
yeah.
And the people that are tapped into that vibration of knowing, like it's going to be the biggest gift.
Yep.
The biggest gift. And I knew it in the moment. I knew it. We were at the hotel like hours after it happened in the morning, and I said, this is going to be so good for us. And Adi was like, I'm not ready for that shit yet. I'm not ready
too
for
soon.
Yeah, too soon. But I felt it. I was like, thank God.
It was the healing.
It was the healing. And it was my rock bottom. It felt like a rock bottom. Like I was like, I want to die right now. Yeah. But it also was like, thank God.
And that's the beauty. Like, I can't hit that on the head enough. I feel like you can't either in your work, where there is no right or wrong ever.
There's
not.
But you need someone to tell you that.
Yeah.
I still need people to, I know that in my gut and my heart. I know that there is no right and wrong. And I still needed you and that girl, and then a tarot card reading in Tulum 1 week later. Like I needed her to be like, there is no right and wrong. What you did was perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Also, I just want to say that doesn't discount
No.
all the suffering and all the struggles and all the pain that you will go through while you're doing the choice, right?
Absolutely. And so, I'm not saying be deceptive. There's no right and wrong in that. I'm saying when it comes to like energetically speaking and manifestation, there's a balance that occurred when that happened. Basically, and I'm assuming this is just me, what I was processing when I heard that, but any like unworthiness or smallness or not good enoughs or anything,
it rebalanced us.
It was gone.
Or even
gone.
Yeah.
Or even to some sense, I think a balance of like, why the fuck did he get to do that?
Exactly.
Like,
but it just rebalanced.
Yeah.
Everything rebalanced.
All the energy.
All of it.
And that's where I have to hit it on the head again. The opposite is usually always, and that doesn't mean go kill someone if someone's. People were responsible and conscious. Come on, listening to this. Yeah, it's an energy that's happening.
Exactly.
But I love that.
But it was an immediate aha, an immediate relief. It healed us. We were going through a really rough time at that time. I was checked out. Yeah. He was the enemy. I was not happy, and then he wasn't happy. Yeah, for months. Like, is that better?
No.
Or going through something big that whatever that is for you and your person
and your specific
and yourself
circumstance.
And your circumstance. Yeah. There is a perfect answer. This was not planned out by any means, but trusting in the universe that like whatever happens is meant to happen, and you will heal from it and you will grow from it and be better for it.
Absolutely.
Well, I think also, so that at that point you were how many years away from that other relationship? Like 10 or 11 years away. And I think one of the things that it showed, so it rebalanced, and there was that for sure. And I remember talking to other guys who were part of my like support network and kind of being like, look, in the grand scheme of things, I can't say anything. Like I've offended, I've done that in the past and have hurt her in that same way. I was upset about it. It caused a lot of pain and turmoil for a long time. But also I was like, well, I got back what I dished out before.
It's energy.
But along with it, there was, up until I would say like the night before this, Sophie would have told you that she's not the kind of woman who would be attracted to a guy and just have sex. Like the one night stand, like all this stuff that was part of my history for sure. She was like, there's something wrong with you for even being that kind of guy who can sleep with a woman you just
can
met.
disconnect.
Like, how can you just think somebody
Which is
is
just
hot?
shadow projection, media society.
And I was like, what do you mean how can I, like, I'm with you, but I'm not blind. Like other people are attractive as we walk around. Like, that's just part of reality.
Yes.
And in that moment, she went to that place and was like, oh, she was never able to now forget that is at least a possibility.
Well, and what you're talking about right now is the actual medicine. All that happened to recalibrate is you guys you took away all the shadow, the shame, the
judgment.
The judgment. Like,
we had like all this stuff. Like, I was this damaged girl who came to him and like had this abusive boyfriend, like the stories that were surrounding it.
Yeah. And
I had all these stories about him, like, oh, he was a drug dealer and like slept with strippers and like had one night stands. I can't. He's just that kind of guy, quote unquote. Putting him into a box, putting him into this thing where he can't ever grow from that.
Totally. Or you couldn't either.
No. Yeah. And instead he just is going to have to like just hold that down because that's his natural way of being. Like, no.
And that's a beautiful thing to talk about for like just repression in general. Is nothing again is written in stone about your true being ever.
Absolutely.
Never. It's just program.
And it really helped me even in like friendships, like friends that knew that this happened, that people that held me on a pedestal, it felt so good to be like, I did this fucked up thing.
Yeah.
Because those people were like one of my best friends was there that night and she was like, you're a piece of shit. Like, who the fuck are you? I don't know you. And and she didn't talk to me for 4 months. And she was with a boyfriend who was very like, closed-minded, conservative. And he was like, she's like, they're this.
Again, that's just shadow.
Right? That's
fear. It freaked out everything they projected about themselves.
And they had judgments and they had ideas and they held certain beliefs about who we were, who I was. And then when we didn't fit into that mold, they were like, bye, we're not here to support you anymore.
I know.
So interesting. And now our friendship's different and better for it. But like, I also won't forget that. I also won't forget that like, when I was down, the one time I needed someone, I was kicked by most parties other than my husband who actually showed up.
It's amazing.
And he's the one that I did it. Like, wait, he's the one that I cheated on and we're like good. Yeah. Why are you doing this? But it's her own stuff. And it always is.
It always is. And that's like a big thing I teach in manifestation. Like what we don't own owns us always, period. Yep. And so it's about uncovering what all that bullshit story is, what all that power we're giving away. That means it has the ability to continue to have power over us, keeping us small. And when we're small, we're not manifesting. And so I think it was when we were with your Libra guy friend and you're like, this is happening in my career. This is going blah, blah, blah. And I just want for people listening for manifestation, that one act in terms of like self-worth and the energy of manifestation, put you back into being big again.
Well, it kept me small to deny myself of being human.
And just having power that, again, that you guys are just two equal humans.
Exactly.
I mean, and this started because you were asking about like sexuality and sensuality and all that sort of stuff. And look, I believe this wholly, right? We live in a puritanical society.
Especially in America.
Withholding that part of yourself, the sexual id, like I want to just have fun and enjoy and like be immersed in pleasure.
Especially as a Taurus, deny that.
Totally.
I denied that for myself for like 15 years.
Probably, most of your sexual life.
Most of my sexual life, I denied it because I was terrified. And I was told over and over again, physically, emotionally, psychologically.
And I'm sure intimacy in any way, shape, or form from your childhood too wasn't.
I think I figured out how to be intimate because I just did the opposite of what my mom did. So I did know how to be intimate, but in terms of being physical, I was literally beat down and wasn't allowed to express myself
in your sexuality,
in anything.
Yeah. So, when you withhold that big a part of your human experience, it dims you. And a lot of people didn't see that in Sophie because she would always be so bright and
it's a
uppy
secret.
and all that kind of stuff.
Not many people know about your sexuality, like how you are, how you show up.
And it's such a shameful, puritanical thing, right? Shameful thing to talk about. And
so all these experiences together, I would say maybe after that cheating episode, so like the second iteration of cheating in our relationship, is when we got serious, or at least more serious, about like, okay, we need to figure out what sexuality means for us together in a relationship.
Your contract.
This
so
contract.
that we can feel safe with each other. And, you know, it's still a work in progress and it's always moving forward, but
it also got more fun at that point.
Yeah, I bet.
Because we were like, we get to now to make the rules together.
And that is the most, like, whether it's your sexuality, whether it's your life, whether it's whatever, like, it is about you making the rules, your contracts. That's it. And, like, if there's anything here that anybody takes away from this conversation is you can literally break any chain off you. It's just a program.
The way I talk to my clients about it is there's nothing too terrible that you've gone through to overcome. Nothing. And some of it sounds like it, and you'll say it in some rooms that people will leave because they don't want to talk about it. But that's their thing.
That's their thing.
That's their thing.
100%.
Nothing you experience is too dark. And the
and
farther
what you don't own owns you.
Yeah.
So the more that you don't integrate and
the
accept
farther
it,
you run, the closer it is to you. It's like
1000%.
right here, right? You can go to the other side of the world, and it'll be that thing inside your head going, "You're still a piece of shit.
You're a piece of shit. This is why you're not worth it.
You still suck."
And that's why you're not manifesting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The life that you want.
Exactly.
No, it's true though.
That's it. So it's all of those.
You got to change that mechanism. You got to change what's within.
Yeah.
Or what's the...
And so getting back to it, looping it back, then you feel too like you tapped far deeper into your sensuality and your femininity after that point.
After that point.
Yeah, there's some other elements of it that we'll talk about before. Some of them having to do with some of them having to do with certain medicines.
Yeah.
But
which I do. Yeah, I can't wait to listen to that episode because I also think it's a very powerful thing to talk about.
Yeah,
be able to open up that.
I'll preface it by saying, look, MDMA is being studied by UCLA and other big centers for being able to overcome trauma, specifically trauma around sexual abuse and things of that nature. And it was created originally.
And connection and intimacy.
Well, connecting your neural pathways far quicker than any hypnotic session, any like reinforce. It's one of those things that even in like overcoming addiction and recovery, it's a huge
PTSD.
tool. Yeah. Because your brain, just from one use of it, you know, it's like, bam, those things can connect right away for 6 months. Like the longevity they're showing of it's unreal.
Yeah. So, you know, and it was created for that, right? The original testing on it was, MDMA was for couples therapy. And
that's why it was created.
I had no idea.
Intimacy work. So that's also part of our journey. We will get more deeply into that. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
We said we're going to talk about it at some point.
Yep.
Here it
Lacy
is.
brought it out.
Yeah. But it's great.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
Honestly, we just wanted to build up our audience before we scared them away.
But again, like,
No,
fuck them if they're not ready for this.
100%.
No, come back later.
By now,
Too
what is this,
soon.
episode 15? It's
This will be like 2022.
they're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine.
At 100.
You've
like, you guys
either
won't even
left us
remember.
already or you're in for the long haul.
Yeah. At this point, I'm
100%,
sure.
totally.
Based on what you guys have talked about.
So we've got 5 questions we ask every single one of our guests. I'm actually really looking forward to these answers from you. Sophie will get us started.
What is the best advice that you've ever received?
No one's your friend. No one's your enemy. Everyone's your teacher. There's just
Who told you that?
It was actually that first fucking manifestation book.
There you go. You needed to learn something.
I did. And like,
That's all you needed.
That's all I needed.
Yeah.
Damn. Like all the answers.
One highlight.
But again, going through all of that new age, spiritual bypass, I had to go through. It's like you having to be an addict. Like I had to learn the depths of what wasn't working, or very traditional forms of recovery. Totally. Because it's like, nah, I've got a different way to hack this. Mm-hmm. So I look back at all of those teachings in those books, and there's obviously so much gold in them, but the greater elements that people tend to take from that work is just like failing left and right for people.
So cool.
Yep. What has been your proudest moment?
Proudest moment. God, there's been so many. I have to say, if I'm really genuinely honest, it's finally like financially truly making it my career, because I grew up with so much programming around money where it was like it had to come from men. We're always broke. We're always in servitude. We can't have that, so really unlocking and unblocking that to the point where like money doesn't even mean anything to me anymore. It really truly is just energy. It feels like I've healed so much karma from that. Past
So cool.
so much family. I've broken the cycle, and I have a whole workshop on money and how that works in manifestation. And it's like, it takes time to understand, and you have to build trust, and you have to do a lot of jumping and, stepping into your worth. But once you understand that, you strengthen that trust muscle, it's just like something you can't lose. And so that has been one of my more proud moments of like breaking that karma.
It's been really nice to finally be on the same page with that. Or like he was saying he had to trust me as the manifestor.
Yeah. Oh, are you manifestor generator?
Yeah.
We
both are, I think.
You're both hybrids?
I think we are.
I literally don't understand what you're asking. So
Jenna
remember
did,
Jenna, the reading with Jenna?
Human design.
Yeah. I definitely am. I think he is too. But he might. I definitely am.
Wow.
But he had
Which
to trust.
most Virgos are manifestors.
So he might be a math
and you're a generator. I think.
Yeah. I'm a Virgo rising.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You have all that. Jeez,
all that.
You're just Earth.
I'm in it.
You're fine. You're gonna live forever.
I'm good.
this is all happening in front of me right now. No
He's
idea
like,
what's
language?
happening.
It's like we're speaking Hebrew.
You're totally. Well, no, Hebrew I would understand.
Yeah, you would get it totally.
Okay, so on the flip side of proudest moment, what has been one of your hardest moments?
Ooh, God, there's been like too many to count. Same. I literally have hit every rock bottom possible. My hardest moment, God, if I were to really hit down on one, I want to say the age of, it's funny because in my practice, like any client that comes to me that's around 25, especially women, and I'm glad that we're talking about this because this will help a lot of women listening, it's always a shitstorm. 25, it's your pre-Saturn return. I don't know why it's happening astrologically or what, but when they come and they're 25, I'm like, oh, don't even worry. Like, of course your world's falling apart. Mine started happening at 23, and I want to say the year of 23 was my biggest rock bottom. I was the poorest. I had been in a relationship with this Canadian actor who was so wonderful for 3 years. He was fully supporting me financially because I had all of that programming. And then I had an affair and fell in love with the other actor that I was working with in a play. And I had like a sociopathic 6-month affair with this guy. Fell in love with him. It was like the first year I had to get my own job. I was the poorest. I ended up like having a relationship with the lover. He broke my heart as much as could possibly happen. Or I should say he broke my ego because he went on to get like a really big TV show and left me. It was just anything that had to happen in that year to earthquake me into my authenticness. The universe was not fucking around because I was obviously here to do something very powerful, and I was wasting a shit ton of time on ego, not good enough, poor, shame, pain, low self-worth. And it was beautiful. I look back at that year and I was like, thank you, God.
All right, that was
25.
I was 23 when it started to happen.
Yeah.
By 25, I had like shattered all of it.
Wow. Yeah, I think that was my 25.
It is that weird year. I don't know why people have that.
What is your self-care ritual? Like, obviously we understand, we talked about some of the things you do for the ongoing manifestation, but how do you make sure that you're centered? How do you take care of yourself on a daily basis to make sure you're showing up as the best that you can be?
This is such a like loaded question because I want to say I'm the most indulgent self-care person on the planet because I have hyperendocrine issues. So it's like I can't drink, I can't have sugar. It's like my blood sugar has to be stable at all times. I'm so Aquarian that I leave my body and I'm far too stimulated often. So for me, like the rock hard that I do daily is protein is a huge part of it to keep my blood sugar levels stable. I have to have animal protein. I do Vedic meditation twice a day. Like it's one of the only practices that really makes me come back down to the planet. I do all of my own unblocked work myself. Like the moment I notice a shadow where I'm like judging something and it's triggering me, I'm like, I'm going to take myself right through that to unlock it and rework it. I do the same thing with Reparent. My biggest form of, if everybody, when they ask the question, what's the one thing we can do today that can like transform us, is sleep. Sleep is like the basic number one. Like if you can get sleep and you can carve that out, like your body goes back into full homeostasis. Like it's the basic.
I'm rarely sleep deprived. I feel so lucky as a mom to 2 and pregnant, but like I sleep like a rock.
That earth.
And it's just so, it's just, I'm good. I feel like you're like that too. You're also an earth sign. Like he's just out, like he's up when he's up, but we sleep solid. We're not like waking up.
Is your sister? Yeah, see, it's that airy, fuck it.
She's like, are you
that's
kidding?
Yeah.
She's insomniac. Like,
Same, yeah.
She's up at 5 every morning, and that's like sleeping in.
Yeah, oh God.
She's bad. It's
I'm
bad.
like that too.
Last question.
Yes.
This is called Ignited. What ignites you?
Ooh, you know what ignites me is the constant curiosity. I never, ever stop being curious. I'm always wanting to crack code. I'm always wanting to learn the best way to do something, to figure something out, to learn. I'm just so constantly self-educationally curious.
Don't you feel like the minute you stop being curious, you die?
No, I think the minute you stop having a purpose, you die.
Okay.
I do believe
That's funny.
that.
I'm connected to that way of looking at things.
I think so, because like when you, even a great example, like just in London, I'm such a geek when I'm in London, where I'm obsessed with the royal family after the crown.
I love that show.
Right?
Yeah,
The
we
Crown,
love
I'm
it.
obsessed. And so like they have the little black cabs in London, where basically those cab drivers, it's nothing like New York or the States. They actually have to study for years to learn every nook and cranny and history of the city. They're kind of like tour guides. So when I was just in one, we started to talk about the Queen, and we'd be like, past Buckingham. I'm such a tourist, Jesus. But he was like, one of my friends is the woman who gives her the red box every day, and they'll have conversation and stuff like that. And he was like, the Queen always says like she won't step down and give the everything to Charles, because it's what keeps her living. And I really believe that that's the case. Like, even in fact, when like I see my family in addiction, or I see the people around me who are lost, it's because a lot of the time I'm noticing is that they don't A, know their purpose, or B, they're not following it. And that, I believe, is the human driver. It's like the driver for the sea.
Yeah.
Catalyst.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Beautiful.
I love it. So curiosity is your thing.
Passion.
Passion. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Almost 2 hours.
Jeez.
I love it. This is great.
2 sessions.
2 sessions.
Thank
Part
you
one, part
so
two.
much
Thank you, guys.
for coming by. This was really, really great. I have a feeling it will not be the last time.
No.
Oh, I hope not. This is fun.
And-
I have too much to learn from you guys now.
Same.
Enough about me.
Same.
And now I want to do some of the manifestation work that you do. So we'll get that done
We
too.
should just sit and talk, because it
Totally.
seems like it would
Aligned.
be really fun to be able to throw people your way, because they need you in this
Yeah,
world.
and vice versa. Yeah. I think it'd be really, really cool. Awesome. I don't really know how to end this, guys. If you're listening right now, I'm in a daze in my own dining room. Thank you so much for tuning in.
We love you.
Yeah.
Leave a 5-star review if you feel that is appropriate, and share this podcast with your friends, and go over to ignited.me on Instagram. We're also Ignited on Facebook, and just come and say hi, interact with us. Let us know if there's someone that you'd like to hear on our program.
Rock and roll.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.